That creepy feeling. What's with the Source Engine games? Yeah. It always feels super creepy. I think it's something to do with the ambiance, but also, I don't know. It's just the engine itself. When you play, it feels really, really. When you're not engaged in combat and you're just free exploring, I always feel uneasy. And it's not even a horror game, like Half-Life 2. There's just something about it. It just feels off.
Since the release of Half-Life 2 and Counter-Strike Source in 2004, the Source engine has been a staple of PC gaming for about 15 years now, and thanks to its ongoing support from its developer, Valve, high modability, and a thriving community spanning generations of gamers, we have a present day where you can hop on games over a decade old and still find a full server browser. It really is kind of incredible. Between the Half-Life games, Team Fortress 2, Portal 1 and 2, Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, Garry's Mod, Counter-Strike Source, Day of Defeat Source, and probably more I don't even know about, it actually seems like the Source engine itself, through its home platform of Steam, has formed one big community, instead of a lot of smaller ones for individual games.
I used to play a lot of
Now,
TF2.
I got in on all this a little bit late. See, when I was 12, I didn't have a PC capable of gaming yet, but I had heard about and was interested in a new little game called Portal, and I got to play it in what was probably the most dated way possible. I went to Blockbuster and rented the Orange Box for Xbox 360. I got home and played it, and like most people, I loved it. But I also noticed something strange about it that, while
yeah,
actually
Box?
making me even more fascinated by it, did make me a little hesitant to play it by myself.
Yeah, I agree.
This game was creepy.
But why is it creepy?
Now, as many of you probably know, this is partly deliberate. That's the whole point of Portal, after all, that beneath the facade of this humorous little puzzle game is a sci-fi horror story that is hinted at throughout and explicitly reveals itself in the final level. As you make your way through the game, you'll probably start to feel a sense of isolation as you look up at those observation windows and think to yourself, if I'm being tested, where is everyone?
Yep, GM Construct.
Shortly after this, I got my first PC of my own and spent much of middle and high school playing these games.
I've always hated this area
The
and
thing
this
is,
map.
for me at least, this unnerving feeling of being alone but not quite is present in every Source game, and not just the ones where it's meant to be there. I was inspired to make this video a few months back by a post on 4chan's Xboard. It caught my attention with a picture of RP Downtown V2, a Garry's Mod map which I am very familiar with.
Yep.
The post read, "Remember RP Downtown V2? I was on a nostalgia trip through Gmod the other day and downloaded it from the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Through the comments, I learned of the rumor that the creator killed himself at some point and haunts the map. People have talked about seeing shadows in the sewers and ghosts and stuff. I'm not sure if the claim about the creator is true or for how long this rumor has existed, but I first heard about it only a few days ago. I've always felt really uncomfortable on this map, with the feeling intensifying in certain buildings for some reason. I've always found Source games in general to be quite unnerving, as I never feel alone on an empty map."
100% agree. And my map, the map that gives me that feeling is mainly GM Construct, and a custom map that you can find on the Steam Workshop called, I think, GM Mall. It's just a shopping mall, and it should be like a really cool map to like explore or whatever and walk in and out. But for some reason, being in an empty mall, even in a video game, where there's absolutely no one around you and it's just ambiance, is super unnerving. Maybe I'm just weird, but something about the engine itself, it just feels super weird. Feels like you're alone but not alone.
This really resonated with me, as someone had put to words what I had felt but never really thought about for years.
Dude, CS
haven't
Office
played
is the
Garry's Mod
same.
in a
I
long
also feel
time,
really
but
alone in this
Curious about the
map.
haunting claims, I downloaded the map from the workshop and took a walk around. Although I didn't see any ghosts, that old unnerving feeling was back in full force. I'll just play a little bit without narration. Afterwards, let me know in the comments. Did you feel creeped out? And if so, do you have any ideas why? And whatever you did or didn't feel, do you have any memories of playing on the map back in the day? That last question is important for later.
I definitely did. It's definitely the ambiance. I'll turn it up for you guys. I don't like those doors. I have a few things to say about this, but you know, okay, so what I think is going on is you're hearing signs of life, but you're not seeing any life around you. Everything seems hauntingly empty. There are no furnitures, no people. You hear cars, and there are no cars on the map. You hear police sirens, which normally signifies that there's a crime or something heinous happening. That already puts you on edge, but you don't see what's happening. It's all just implied, and I think it's the ambiance that really gets me. It's the it implies life, but there's an absolute absence of life here. I think that's what's kind of creepy about it. If that makes any sense to you guys? The sounds imply that there's something going on, but there's literally nothing going on. Like, your ears betray your eyes.
Now, the first thing I noticed when I opened this map up was the ambient noises. Most custom maps are made up of assets from other Source games, most often Half-Life 2. As a game with a dystopian sci-fi setting, that often means a distant alien hum playing in the background of a given map. When played over a seemingly normal or even upbeat-looking area, it's easy to see how this can create a sense of uneasiness, one that you probably wouldn't notice while playing with others, but is probably much harder to ignore when you're alone. Some maps take it a step further, having sounds of conversation and traffic which can fill out the atmosphere of a populated server, but just seems out of place when you can hear all this activity with no one around. Speaking of being alone, remember before when I asked if you have any memories of playing on RP Downtown V2?
I have.
And whether or not you felt anything now? See, my thinking is this. I personally played a lot on this map back in the day. I remember running a bar with my friend that ended up being extorted by a gang for a chunk of our profits. We went to the police, who set up an outpost upstairs to monitor activity in our bar so that they could arrest them. This led to an amusing little back and forth when they went upstairs to set up and found my own little counterfeiting operation, but decided to let it go as the gang members were the bigger fish in town. The point of this story is that I associate many of these maps with activity and fun memories. To come back to it now, empty and with a now more obvious sinister ambient track, it creates a disconnect in my mind that something is wrong here.
Yes.
I'm not really alone.
100% agree.
As I explored these old maps, I almost expected to see a mysterious message saying a player had joined, or to turn a corner and see someone watching me in the distance.
Oh my god. Yikes.
So, in conclusion,
Yep.
while this phenomenon is not strictly unique to Source games, I believe more people consistently experience this in Source environments for two main reasons. Firstly, because of a wide variety of otherwise pretty upbeat maps using the ambient sounds of Half-Life 2 of all things. And secondly, the popularity, age, and continued use of these games means that a large number of people are playing a set of games which are both nostalgic to them and are either still present in their lives or can be easily revisited at any time thanks to Steam. With all this considered, it comes as no surprise that there's no shortage of creepypastas about players returning to old games to find something really wrong with them. And Source games in particular seem to be the perfect storm of nostalgia, widespread appeal, and inherent creepiness.
I agree, 100%. Because whenever I play Gmod in any of the Counter-Strike maps, right? When you play Counter-Strike maps, you don't even really pay attention to the map anymore. You kind of just go in and you shoot each other. But when you're in the map alone, and you're so used to playing it as like a competitive shooter, you have this sort of like feeling in the back of your mind where you're like sort of expecting, I don't know, either a terrorist or a counter-terrorist, and you're supposed to gun them down. But there's literally no one there. And somewhere like in the deep recesses, you're sort of expecting, you know, so-and-so has joined the server, and then you can shoot him, but it's sort of like waiting for a guest that's never going to show up. And if they do show up, it's an uninvited guest and it's extra creepy. I don't know if I'm doing a good job sort of explaining how I feel, but I think that's why it feels so creepy with these Source Engine maps. I think it's because we're playing it in Gmod, and it's sort of like the unintended use for the map. Like the map is supposed to be a battlefield, but we're using it for like solo creativity, and it feels out of place because of that. But damn, yeah, that perfectly explains why Source Engines feel so creepy. Thank you, the Librarian. If you guys like the content, make sure you guys sub to the channel and like and ring that bell.